Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Insider at Home, the show that brings you the very best in show jumping. My next guest is a team player as pure as you can find them. She, herself, her family and her team have set the milestone for modern show jumping. Those are not my words, those are the words of Ludger Beerbaum, the German Kaiser, when he was in the press conference after that first Longines Global Champions Tour Super Grand Prix at the O2 Arena, the GC playoffs in Prague. She's also a true team member and a team fighter on the Prague Lions, culminating to a big win in 2018 at the stunning Miami stage at the other side of the ocean. You know who we've got as our next guest? It is nobody else than Anna Kellnerova. Anna, great to have you on our show. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you very much. It's really nice to see you, at least like this. I'm doing very well, thanks.
Where are you at the moment? I see wood behind you, but I can't really put my finger on it. Where are you? Where are we recording this?
Well, I am in the stables, as you might have guessed, where I spend really the majority of my time. So just finished riding and doing this recording with you here.
That's good to hear. Where should we locate that? The stables? Is it near Prague, near the O2 Arena?
It's just outside of Prague, quite close to the airport, actually, where most of the riders landed when they were coming to the Prague playoffs. So not so far away from the center.
Anna, your English is remarkably well. Sometimes one would even think that there is a hint of Jessica Curtin in there. There's maybe even a slight Irish twitch to the accent, but there's also a part of Anna Kellnerova that was based in England for a long time. Basically, your riding career even started in England. What's that about? What can you tell me about it?
It did basically a little bit. I did because in Czech Republic you need to have a competition license to be able to compete nationally. And so I did my competition license in Czech Republic, but then for the summer I moved to England and competed there. I got to compete in Hickstead at the really small rings, small shows around, so that was an amazing experience. And yeah, I spent one summer there and I trained with Kenneth Clausen for a couple of years, so that's my connection to England.
Okay. Then you've had a few other Czech trainers who took you through all the ranks as a junior and young rider, and then Jessica Curtin comes onto your path and you meet Jessica Curtin. How did that partnership start?
It started, I think it's 4 years now that we've been working together. It was actually my mom who heard Jessica commentating on the Europeans in Aachen. And my mom, because we're really not a horse family, she had no idea who was commentating. And she told me that I have to come and listen, that, this lady speaking, she is just like me and she thinks like me, and that I have to find out who it is and meet her and see if she trains and try and train with her. So it was actually my mom who initiated me meeting Jessica in the end and calling her.
When somebody sees the two of you, Jessica and you walking the course, discussing around afterwards, good or bad, on-site or off-site, away from the showgrounds, it does give you the feel that it's much more than a purely trainer-pupil relationship. It feels like there's a lot of friendship involved as well.
There really is. I mean, we've been working for 4 years together, and 4 years is a long time. And really, I think I'm really privileged to call it also a friendship. For sure, she's still my mentor, and she really knows and has the skill in the show jumping and helps me that way. But a lot has happened in the 4 years, a lot of ups and downs in the sport and outside of the sport, and I think we have a pretty close friendship, or at least I would like to say that I do.
I'm sure she'll say the same. What has she brought to you? What is the one thing that she emphasized on, that she made you work on? What is not really the Jessica Curtin system, but if you have to pick out one thing, like, this is what I've learned, this is what Jessica brought me the most, what would it be?
It would be horsemanship. If there's something that Jessica, not only concentrates her training around, but her entire, I would like to say, her life, her career, really, points out something. It's, of course, her career was extremely good and she had amazing results, but the horsemanship that she emphasizes, not only in the training but outside of training is incredible. And the questions, she's willing to ask about the horses and what they need and what they don't need. It's really, it's important, and it really opened my eyes because I was always quite, caring and never wanted to, step over the boundaries of what the horses could do. But also, in the sport, it requires a lot of work. So it would have to be the horsemanship.
Yeah, interesting to hear. And of course, there is a thing or two to learn from a Longines Global Champions Tour champion series.
Sure.
During the 20 questions with Edwina Tops-Alexander, there was a question about your character, and you described yourself, and I wrote it down, as caring, passionate, and stubborn. Pure by coincidence, I asked the same question to Jessica. How do you think she describes you?
Well, I would guess that she would say stubborn also, because it's something we come across during our trainings sometimes. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, she calls you ambitious. That is the number one thing. She also said in the same WhatsApp message that you're extremely caring for horses and people. So that is alike. But she really emphasized on the ambition. You are an extremely hard worker, she says. And you're extremely ambitious. Coming as an under 25 rider, you're 23 now. You've been on the tour since 2017, so 3 or 4 years ago. So you come onto the tour aged 20. You've worked yourself through young rider and junior classes, and you come onto the Longines Global Champions Tour and the Global Champions League. Back in the day, it was even the Berlin Lions still. And you're ambitious. How difficult is it to make the jump into the deep end of the pool?
At that point in my show jumping career, it was extremely difficult. It was the right decision, even though it was a difficult one for Jessica to make, because we've been training together only for 1 year, and I was jumping at 3-star, 4-star level, a couple of 5 stars. But to really start at the global, at the level, with all the amazing athletes, riders, and horses, was something that I was prepared for, but not experience-wise. So there was a lot of letting myself down, even though looking back at it, it shouldn't have been that way for me, because I didn't have the experience, to jump clear rounds. It was something that has to be developed. But I think that's where Jessica is right. My ambition was a little bit too much for the situation. But the whole experience of being able to do it and jumpstart your career like that, to have the opportunity to watch the others and learn from them, even though you might not be doing so great, was something I would never be able to get anywhere else. So the possibility, to start at such a young age was something I think that you could really see later on. That helped me incredibly.
Because you don't just compete at 5-star level, you compete at a team, a new concept, innovative concept, where riders from different nations come together in one team, a team that stays together throughout the entire season, only 5 or 6 team members that always come back to the same shows. So you not really live together with the team, but you see each other every weekend. And you fight for the results together every week. And there you are as a 20-year-old coming into the big end of the sport. And you have to perform alongside those world-class athletes. Not only do you have to level their performance, sometimes you even have to do better than them just to keep the team in a good position. There was not really room for error. Did you feel a lot of pressure when you started?
I did, for sure. I think more than anything, a lot of pressure from myself, because like you say, I really didn't want to let down the team. I wanted to be there and, support the team. And it's not like a Nations Cup series where you cross out the 4th rider. Every single result counts, every single second counts. So it's really a different system from when you're a junior or young rider and you jump at a Nations Cup, a Young Rider Nations Cup, and the worst one gets crossed out, or even at a Senior Nations Cup. So it was really, the determination and the ambition to jump clear, but it wasn't always the case. And what I have to say that, the team, the Lions team, whether it was Berlin Lions in the beginning and then Prague Lions later on, thanks to Jessica and Eckhard, there was always such an amazing atmosphere that even though I might not have performed that day the way we wanted, the team was there and they knew that it was a learning curve and that, at the next show I might jump the clear round. So it was really the amazing support also from the more experienced riders, and not the criticism from them that really helped me, push along and, in the end develop into slowly a better rider.
Can you remember in those early days, 2017, you're about to ride in for the Lions. You're nervous. There's a lot at stake. What does Jessica Curtin say before you go in? Can you remember? How did she comfort you? How did she put you at ease? How did she boost your confidence?
She's very good at noticing whether the rider is really on point and ready to perform, or if they're a little bit, above themselves and not really sure. And she's very good at either, giving me a slap on the leg and saying, come on, let's do it, or saying, she sees that there's so much determination that she says, just enjoy the ride, and being able to analyze and see what the rider needs at that moment is also very important, because that last word can be, a changing factor, especially when you're young and inexperienced and your emotions take the better of you.
It's an interesting combination, actually. You don't have really one team manager. You've got two, because we're always talking about Jessica Curtin.
Yeah.
But Eckhard also plays a very important role. He was in Doha this year. I think he was in Monaco last year. He's at several places. And though he doesn't stand in the spotlight like Jessica, he plays a big role as well as team manager, and especially in supporting that team throughout the whole season.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, the two of them make an amazing team together. You can see that from the past, from their results, from Jessica's results in the sport. And now, from them being, connected to the Lions team. He helps so much, because Jessica also sometimes has to be at a show with me somewhere when it's necessary for my building curve. Eckhard, steps in and he knows the boys inside out. He knows also what to say, when to say it. He always discusses it with Jessica. And he's somebody that you can really lean on for support. So it's amazing to have both of them on the team.
Prague Lions have been a very solid team throughout the years, and specifically in terms of team composition during the transfer window mid-season, or during the off-season between one and the other season. You don't change the team a lot. You really keep the riders. You pay a lot of respect, attention, dedication also to all the riders on your team. But you had some fantastic names: Jur Vreeling, Willem Vermeer, Niels Bruinseels, Mark Houtzager, your fellow countryman, Alessio Paterni, Sergio Moya is now on. Is there one of those, and of course Gerko Schröder, let's not forget about him, is there one of those riders that really had an influence, other than, of course, Jessica? But is there one of those riders that really taught you something, brought you something?
To be honest, every single one of them has. It's being able to compete next to them, talk to them, discuss the rounds with them, or their, opinions about the sport, about, getting the horses, on point and understanding their mentality and everything. It's always been incredible discussion, and I've had, luckily, a couple of those with all of them, whether it was with Gerko or Niels. I really have to say that they've always had something, super interesting, different perspective to share with me. And it's great that I can, also pick up the phone, and if I'm not sure with something, because I am still young and I'm still, looking for answers and ways to do things, that I can really, call maybe Niels and say, hey, listen, this is the situation. What is your take on it? Can you help me with your experience? And it's super that we have this amazing community that we can, really do this and lean on each other. It's not always like this, and it's not even in some national teams that you have this type of support. So I'm really, fortunate and happy that we have this.
So Prague Lions is more than a team that meets each other those 3 days at the show. You can also call them mid-season and say, hey, listen, can you help me?
Yeah, it really is. I'm sure other teams have it like this also, but the Prague Lions, it's just an exceptional team. Exceptional team.
That's great to hear. Anna, you came onto the tour in 2017. You had a great season in 2018. One of the highlights so far must have been the big win in Miami 2018, where the Lions won their first ever Global Champions League stage. 2019 was different. You sustained an injury in Madrid, and basically we haven't seen you back on the league or on the tour since Madrid 2019. So the question is, what have you been doing in the meantime?
It was a long road of recovery. I really didn't expect it. Of course, I knew that it wasn't just a simple injury, but I thought things tends to heal a little bit faster. And I was hoping that by the end of 2019, I would be competing, hopefully at the Prague playoffs. But my leg told me otherwise, even though I was working like crazy to get it organized. But I think in the end, the body decided what was the best. Even though I put in the hours, it said, no, come on, I need more time. This is not the right thing to do. So for the whole of 2019, I was, riding at home. I also went out of the country for some holiday because I am a little bit of a workaholic, and I haven't really taken much of holidays. So to spend some time with the family and my partner was also something that I did during that time. But then later on in the year, I started riding again when the leg allowed it, because in the beginning I was in quite a bit of pain. And at the beginning of 2020, I finally was able to start competing again. So I competed in Oliva in Spain for 2 times 2 weekends, and that was amazing. And now, of course, I was slowly getting ready for the global, but we'll have to wait until next year.
How frustrating was it? Wanting to get on, wanting to ride, seeing the horses, seeing them stand there in the stable, probably your home rider flat working them, maybe even Jessica getting on, and you couldn't. You had to stay down, though you wanted. The leg said no. How frustrating was it?
In the beginning, it was okay because I was, it was a big injury. I was on crutches for basically 2.5, 3 months, so I wasn't even walking for a very, very long time. So I knew, with the crutches and everything, I knew my head, I just knew that I couldn't. There wasn't a, yeah, but I really want to. I just knew that the leg didn't have the power to do it. So I was okay with, sitting down, watching them. I went to the stables every single day. I was here all day, every day, watching the horses, cuddling with them, watching Jessica once a week, ride them. My amazing home rider ride them also, because, they really did an amazing job at keeping the horses together. But what was really difficult was later on when I got the green light from the doctors to start riding. I attempted, and the first few days it was okay, riding one horse. And then slowly things kind of changed, and I started having problems, and the doctors didn't really realize how demanding of a sport it is. Even though it's not sprinting or playing tennis, you really have to not only use your muscles extremely on your legs, but also the pressure that you put onto the bones through the landing and through the rising trot and sitting trot and everything. I think nobody really realized how much pressure is actually put onto the riders and onto their bodies. So in the end, it was a lower or a slower, get back curve than I wanted it to be.
Did it tell you something more about the rider as an athlete?
It did, and actually, surprisingly, it also taught me more about the horses, because I always, when I would be injured in the past, it would be a small injury, maybe a muscle tear or something like this. So you would organize it, deal with it for a couple of days, maybe use some tape to hold it in place. But what I really found with a bigger injury was that you might actually heal the injury itself, but there are other parts of your body that may be compensated and have problems now because of it. So you don't only deal with the actual injury, visible injury itself, but it's a whole system that's really connected. And also really understanding that it's not just, you know, technically healed, but the body has to be strong enough to be able to take it also. And with the horses, it's the same. You know, if they get injured, of course, there's maybe one injury happening, but because they have been out for some time, you have to take into consideration the rest of the body and that they might be, you know, compensating somewhere else. So it was a huge learning experience for me, not just as an athlete, but in regards to the horses also.
Yeah. We are beginning of June 2020. Normally we would be traveling throughout Europe at this stage for the Longines Global Champions Tour and the Global Champions League. Would you have been ready at this point to be on the tour and to jump the big classes and to be 100% for the team?
I would like to hope that yes. I was for sure doing everything at the beginning of the year to be ready. But to be quite honest with you, I got the opportunity at the beginning of the year to start training with a physiotherapist that actually trained with an Olympic athlete from Czech Republic before. And only now do I really feel, I thought at the beginning of the year that I felt good and strong. And the difference now after this physiotherapy workouts that I've been doing, I feel so much stronger, and actually even stronger than I've felt before the injury. So I would like to hope that by now we would have been ready to support the team and, you know, travel the shows and be there for the Lions.
Yeah. Well, you've got, unfortunately, or luckily, however you want to look at it, you've got a few months still to get even fitter and stronger. And then maybe we will see you in Prague, of course. The GC playoffs. We said in the introduction, Ludger Beerbaum called it a milestone for modern show jumping. Your family is very much involved. They're the head organizers behind the GC playoffs. A fantastic organization, fantastic event. How much are you involved in that whole structure?
As you said, my parents, especially my mom, is extremely involved, especially around the show program that was put together for the GC playoffs. I wouldn't like to say in charge, but really part of the core marketing and you know, getting the people, the Czech citizens who don't have something to do with the horses, you know, who aren't connected to show jumping, to get them involved and interested. And it was a lot of work from everybody in the family, because we're not a horse country, but I'd like to say that in the last 3 years, it's really changing, and you can really see that even now during the quarantine, you can see competitions being played on the main Czech TV. So it's amazing how it has really changed, and you know, the global tour, and I'd like to say the playoffs are a big part of that.
11,000 people, the capacity of the O2 Arena when the Sandring is installed. I think it was twice sold out last year and 3 times in 2018. So I do think you did quite a good job. You are an ambassador for your sport. I think you're the number 2 leading rider on the international FEI ranking of your country. But you're a big ambassador for Global Champions League as well. Do you think you've got an influence also on, that as a rider you can have an influence on the development of your sport in your own country?
I do think so, especially if you're not afraid to talk about it and be part of the, you know, the larger media viewings. Of course, it comes at a price, because then you're not just doing what you love for yourself, but you're also being viewed as a national athlete. But I do think, especially in a country like Czech Republic, in a country that, you know, before, as I said, wasn't so into show jumping, to be able to, you know, through somebody push that and push the sport more up and make it more interesting is an amazing opportunity, because hopefully it also brings, you know, more interest, a wider generation that starts to ride, you know, a young generation that gets interested, or even sponsors potentially, as we could see at the Prague playoffs, you know, companies that normally weren't involved in the sport now, you know, start to be involved, and it's a huge opportunity that, you know, a rider has to then take, not doesn't have to, but if they want to help the sport, it's the best you can do, and hopefully you have at least a little bit of a way to, as you say, influence it or assist the interest in the sport.
If the sport gives you so much, you should also give something back.
Exactly.
I think those are what you said there. Many of those are also the goals of the team back in Valkenswaard, the spiritual home of the tour and the league. Talking about goals, it is going to be an off-season 2020. You can't put it any other way. So let's look ahead. Let's be positive. 2021. What are Anna Kellnerova's goals for the upcoming GCL and GCT season?
Well, we have been planning with Jessica that we really want to make sure we're ready for the start of the season. Of course, we have to wait and see where it's going to start. But if it happens to start in Doha, like it has for the couple of years, we will do everything to be ready and to be there for the team and, follow then with the rest of the tour. And really, make sure or at least attempt to have the Prague Lions team as good as possible, and then later on ready for the playoffs in Prague, and really push to be hopefully by the end of the season and at the Prague playoffs in the top 4, as I'm sure every team's goal is. But for us, it's even more so because it's Prague and it's the Prague Lions, and then also looking at the Olympics.
You've seen how that has played out now 2 years. Top 4 of the regular season gets a pass straight into the semi-finals. Do you think it is is it a positive thing? Is it an advantage to go straight into the semi-finals? You've had 2 difficult seasons, 2 difficult GC playoffs in 2018, 2019. Would you like to opt to go straight into the semi-finals, or do you think that the road to the quarterfinals still is the better route to take? What do you think?
It is difficult, and I think it does really matter on the riders' ability to keep a cool head and really understand that just because they finished the league in the top 4 doesn't mean that in the semifinals they get to go straight away, up. It's you could see from the past results that a lot of teams did burn because they went straight into the semifinals. And of course the horses have and the riders have less pressure because there is one less competition, but as the rider you have to be ready enough mentally for the pressure, and that you have to fight as much as any other team, whether the team has started in the quarterfinals or not. So I think it has to do a lot with the mentality.
Did you analyze the rounds after Prague 2018, where that 1 second was lost, the 1 second that cost you a place into the next stage of those GC playoffs?
Yes, I mean, we looked at it. It could have been 1 second, or it could have been the one mistake that was unnecessary. In the end, that's what happened. For sure, every rider that was jumping for the Prague Lions really, did absolutely everything they could to jump clear and to secure the round. Unfortunately, it of course didn't happen, and I was of course disappointed with myself also because it was a huge deal for me to be jumping not only at the Prague playoffs but also in front of my home country, in front of my hometown. I wish I could re-jump that, but I can't, and it makes me even more motivated for the next Prague playoffs that will be coming up.
Jane Richard Phillips, who at the cost of Prague Lions qualified with the Cannes Stars for the semi-final in 2019, made the same comment. If I could only re-jump that round, but then she's talking about her round in the final. That's team-wise 2021. What's your goal as an individual on the Longines Global Champions Tour? You've been knocking on the door. You've qualified for many Grand Prix. You competed in many, but not yet the big result. I think 11th or 12th back in Monaco and in London, which was a very difficult stage, by the way. What's your individual goal?
For sure, as you're hinting, it is to jump a clear round in the Grand Prix. I've dreamed of that ever since I started competing in the tour, and it's what I will be working towards and really wanting to accomplish in 2021. It's not easy, as you can see. Of course, there are young riders that have accomplished that, and I really want to be, a part of that group and be able to get into that jump off and, start pushing on the pedal in the jump offs.
Yeah. That will be something to look forward to. Luckily, you've got a way. You've got a way to get there. The route is already planned. You've got Jessica Curtin alongside of you. You've got a good set of horses, and you've got a great exercise that you've drawn up for us. Tips and tricks with Anna Kellnerova. Something very, very easy. Anna, what did you draw up for us?
It is a very simple exercise, and I was debating whether sharing it or not. But that was really the first thing that came to my mind. Because it really helped me with, for example, Silverstone, who was one of the horses I, jumped the Grand Prix and the Global Champions, league competitions with. It is it's two verticals on one stride, and normally I would put it on the short side of an arena to make the horse, and the rider bend a little bit and ride through the turn a little bit more. You can come it from any side, and basically you ride it a little bit in a figure of 8. The reason why I chose it is because even though this opinion or my opinion might change in the future as I gain more experience, I really think that, the balance of the horse and the rider is absolutely key. Because if you need to gallop, in a jump off to the last vertical, you need to be able to just shift your shoulders back, and the horse needs to feel it and balance himself out and, get ready, to be, to jump the last fence, or in a short turn, where you're going against the clock. Again, you, the rider, have to be in balance, and the horse has to be in balance also. So interpreting, these two easy jumps with a stride, as well as in the turns, using some show jumping dressage to really work the horse, work on his balance, on where his shoulder placement is, on where his hind legs are, but also on your body weight. Sometimes we think it's the horse that's leaning in, but it's because our body weight isn't exactly centered. So working, on these two different things to be able to really, pick the little things and work on the little things that in the end, allow you to be more successful in the course, is what I think, or at least for me, has been the key to really, nail the little differences that then, will make up the big whole, and the horse will be ready for anything then in the big courses.
Okay, give me some details. 6 meters in between, I see. The verticals, how high do you jump them normally?
For sure not big. I would start with, 80, 90 centimeters, build it up maybe to 1 meter, 1 meter 10. It's not about the height. It's about, the concentration of coming to the verticals and then turning either sharp after the verticals or coming sharp to them. It's really, as I said, about the turn and the approach and the way you ride the tight circle to these two jumps.
What you spoke about Silverstone, who that jumped this exercise quite a lot. What did you want to improve on him? What did he do? What was not going perfectly? What did you want to improve with him?
With him, I really worked on the turn after the jump. So I would, ride into the two verticals. And as I would be jumping out the second vertical, I would, put my body weight inside. I would turn, but I would really, focus on putting my inside leg on, having my outside hand to stabilize him and ask him to really, bend in the turn, but at the same time, push with his hind legs and create a lot of energy, but on a small stride, to get him to close down and be round and use his back muscles, use his stomach muscles, use his, hind legs to really work in the turn, so that then when I ask him to make a short turn, maybe to a taller vertical in a jump off, he would already have the memory of, putting his weight back, going through the turn, and then getting ready to jump the jump.
Just to give our viewers a bit of an idea, how often would you jump this in one session? And how many would you repeat those sessions regularly every week or per week?
Per week, I would say, you can use this exercise once a week or even twice a week with every horse. It depends how old the horse is. If you want to be jumping more or less with him. If it's an older horse, you don't want to be jumping with the horse all the time. You want him to be excited to work, excited to compete. So it really depends on what stage of your partnership and of the horse's career you're at. And for sure, when I would do this exercise, I would repeat it many times. It's not about doing it, 2 times perfectly, but it's about doing it from the left side, from the right side, giving the horse a nice break, maybe doing something else, maybe doing a little bit of, movement going forwards, going backwards, and then coming back to the exercise. Repetition is never a bad thing to do, I think, when it comes to these small gymnastics, this small type of show jumping dressage, because it doesn't tire the horse. It doesn't, you're not using extreme amounts of push like you would maybe when jumping a 160 oxer. So doing these little things, I think, helps also for their concentration.
Super. Thank you very much. The whole explanation of how this exercise is very elaborate, and I think everybody basically understands what you want to say and what this could be good for. Thank you for giving us some insights. Thank you very much also for sitting down, because I think you're sitting on the floor, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I am.
Thank you for wanting to sit down with us, taking the time. I know you just finished riding, but I do appreciate that you took the time to talk to us and give us an update on your situation in Prague, on the GC playoffs, on your horses, on Jessica, on your partnership, on your relationship, and on the goals for 2021. Can't wait to hand you that microphone, maybe after another victory in the Global Champions League, or who knows, in the Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was really nice talking to you. Thank you very much.
And to you at home, once again, and as always, thank you very much for watching, also for taking the time and for getting in touch with us through Facebook, through Instagram, through all the social media channels. We do appreciate that you stay with us throughout this off-season of Global Champions League and Longines Global Champions Tour. Keep an eye out on our social media channels for everything that is coming at you from Valkenswaard. And for now, stay safe and thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye and bye-bye.